In today's video, I'm going to be talking about something that's very relevant in today's digital age, the psychology of scrolling. Whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, or general newsfeed, we can all find ourselves mindlessly scrolling from time to time. Looking back at some of my screen time, I know I'm certainly guilty of this. Scrolling through social media and news feeds has become a ubiquitous part of our daily lives. But have you ever actually wondered why we find it hard to stop once we start? Humans are natural foragers, and just like our ancestors would have foraged for food and information, we now use our phones to seek new content. Our desire to go out and seek and explore is deep-rooted within our evolutionary biology. And what does phones provide? Well, essentially, endless feed and information for us to explore. And this is where number 2 comes in, variable rewards. Scrolling is very similar to playing slot machines. In fact, that refresh button that you pull down and pops up is based on those exact machines. And it's that unpredictability in finding new content that keeps us hooked. Each time we find something engaging, our brain releases dopamine. And it's this dopamine that eventually forms a habit, or in this case, an addiction. So just like the slot machines, the social media platforms play on this variable reinforcement strategy, which keeps us coming back for more. Scrolling can provide a physically safe and passive way to escape our daily stress and relax. It's also very similar to binge watching a TV show. Studies show in the Journal of Computer-Mediated Communication that when we mindlessly scroll, it often leads to feelings of guilt. And it's these guilty emotions that are actually making us feel low and affecting our well-being. We feel even more guilty when scrolling conflicts with our goals, like getting work done. So what other interesting facts are there when it comes to the psychology of scrolling? According to Harvard Business Review, we're actually 22% more likely to continue watching another video if we've already watched multiple within the same category. For example, if you're on YouTube and you're watching a bunch of philosophy videos, say about the life of Marcus Aurelius, you're more likely to watch another one having already watched multiple than say you would have if you just watched one and then decided to switch to Sabrina Carpenter getting ready for the Met Gala.
True story.
However, unfortunately, it's not just general scrolling that's causing concern. The behaviour known as doomscrolling is becoming particularly common. This is when a person can become obsessive about seeking depressing or negative content. A journal published by the International Society for the Quality of Life Studies showed that doomscrolling is also correlated with certain personality traits. It highlighted that it was positively correlated with traits such as neuroticism, social media addiction, and fear of missing out. In other words, if you're anxious, hate missing out on events, and have a tendency to be addicted to social media in general, you're more likely to doom scroll. In contrast, the traits of conscientiousness and agreeableness had a negative correlation with doom scrolling. Those that have high conscientiousness tend to have very good self-regulation and time management, and those who are agreeable tend to have very high levels of empathy. And it's people who had these sort of traits that tended to stay away from doom scrolling. The reason why doom scrolling can be so detrimental is because it keeps us locked in that cycle of negativity and anxiety. Therefore, after some time, it can actually distort our view on the world and make it seem a lot more negative than it actually is. However, because of our threat response, people actually are more engaged to negative content than they are positive. Social media and media platforms are very aware of this. Therefore, they create algorithms based on what they think they'll get most attention, which is unfortunately a lot of negative content. Another important aspect based on this point is that humans are not supposed to be exposed to so much information, particularly from all around the world. Back in the day, our ancestors lived in close, tight-knit communities. This meant that they would only be aware of events, information, and threats that would directly impact their own survival. However, today we're bombarded across the board of all different news from all around the world constantly. And while it can be a good thing to know what's going on around the world, it isn't natural for our brains to have so much information coming at us every single day. However, I never like to create a video that's really solely negative. So what can we do about it? Here's a few tips to manage your scrolling habits. Number 1, set time limits. I've definitely experienced where I've gone onto my phone, scrolled through lots of social media, and suddenly it's 3 or 4 hours later and I'm like, oh my god, what have I been doing? There are different ways that you can set time limits. Number 1 is just a basic alarm. If you have half an hour free and you want to go on social media, perhaps set a timer or alarm for half an hour, so then at least you'll be alerted and become aware when that time is up. However, not all of us actually remember to set an alarm, and that can be the issue in itself. But fortunately, there are now apps available that can block or set the timers for you. I'm actually trying this out recently and it's become very effective. I'm particularly guilty for going on social media quite early in the morning, and that's actually my most productive time. So I've now installed an app that blocks certain social media platforms that I'm more likely to use in the morning. And this way I can get on with my morning and daily routine instead of going down a YouTube wormhole like I'm used to doing. The next one is mindful scrolling. We don't always have to feel guilty when it comes to social media or scrolling in general. In fact, some of us purposely go onto a platform and sometimes there's specific information I really want to learn more about, and I can do that through social media platforms effectively. So this is essentially just being aware of why you're on the platform. Are you on it for a specific reason, or is it just genuinely distraction and boredom? The third tip is alternate your activity. Instead of doing a complete social media marathon session, perhaps watch one video and then engage in another task. I mentioned earlier that the studies show that if you are watching multiple videos consecutively, you're more likely just to continue down a rabbit hole. So therefore, by putting these tasks in between the videos, you are more likely to be able to get on with your day and get on with your tasks. Remember, scrolling isn't inherently bad, and there is a lot of educational content out there. But it's good to be aware that a lot of scrolling can affect our well-being negatively and our productivity. So it's about taking control of our digital habits and using it to enhance our well-being and our educational experience. So there's a little bit about the psychology of scrolling and what we can do about it. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe or comment below. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.